Okay, it's been a while after Railway has been released. I've seen a lot of crazy good clears, I've seen a lot of strategies being used. I believe now people have even cleared up to 65. Yeah, that's pretty impressive already. That guy took 5 days apparently re-rolling just for optimal RNG, so yeah, that's a bit too much for me. But from their strategies, I have narrowed down in my mind what are the best units in the game for clearing this. And if you just want a short guide on like what units will help make your life easier, what units are very good for Railway1, I think this is a pretty decent judge. I probably won't be 100% correct, no tier list will ever be, so if you don't like this or you have a specific synergy that you want to use, then feel free to just follow. I'm just giving you guys my thoughts. But as expected, the 3 stars have all just overperformed and are clearly the ones to bring for when you want to do this, with the exception of KK Honglu, who has Cloud Cutter and helps you speed through quite a few stages where enemies are weak to blue pride skills and also weak to slash skills, namely the K-Corp. Yep. Alright, so let me go left to right and then I'll explain. Also, disclaimer, the characters are put in these tiers and they are not power level, like for example, Rabbit Heath is not stronger than W Dawn. They are equivalent. They are the best in their class, in my opinion, for this Railway, and you should always use them if you have them. That's my opinion. And then we have specific characters that are good for specific stages, characters that are good for their passives, strong characters that you can use as a secondary in case you don't have these guys, and then the bottom guys who in my opinion, are not very useful for many stages. If you need the elements and you think that there is a use for them, then feel free to. I'm not gonna stop you. And this guy is not meant to just it's not meant to say like, oh yes, they are this weak. No, there is a purpose for everyone in this game. Maybe not Heath yet, but I'm sure he will get maybe an ID or an ego that will benefit this low HP style that he wants to go for. But for now, for this Railway, these are who, in my opinion, the best. And we'll start with Rabbit. So Rabbit is just phenomenal here. Being Heathcliff, he has access to Telepole and Body Sack, and you can ignore Telepole's existence entirely. You can just look at Body Sack as a free blunt move that is also Envy, and gives him attack up and speed up. So what is so significant about that is that when you look at Telepole Dawn, sorry, not Telepole Dawn, Rabbit Heathcliff, is that he gains coin power from these skills at 6 speed. So being able to give yourself extra speed so that you can get this coin power is extremely good. The number one strategy I've been using for my base ID clears is has always been body sack into quick suppression, and that is what I do like 90% of the time when I'm trying to speedrun a very thick abnormality in the dungeon. So the setup is you body sack on turn 1 and you make sure that you have quick suppression on the first skill or next turn. You're getting it next turn. If either of those options are available, then you can body sack this turn to prepare for the quick suppression turn next turn. And it will give you attack power up so you can hit harder, and then it also give you this coin power +2 for even more damage. Yeah, it's an insane combo, like one of the best in the game in my opinion. And then after that, and besides that, he even applies fragility on this. Yeah, Rabbit Heathcliff is just so good. With how thick the bosses are, the fragility here is really significant to help you cut down those turn counts. So he is definitely very, very important for clearing this dungeon. And his banner is actually up now, so if you don't have your Rabbit Heathcliff yet, I would strongly encourage you to go get a Rabbit Heathcliff. If not, you just borrow, because he is very, very significant and can help cut down a lot of turns for your runs. Following that is W Dawn, who is also very, very strong ever since the release of her Telepole. Very, very, very strong. I think someone told me that I was judging W Dawn wrong last time, and I think he was right. W Dawn is very, very strong because of Rip Space, and now especially with Telepole Dawn, she is just disgusting. Telepole is cheap for he, first off, so it's 5 cost. and it gives her 10 charge count, and on hit it gives charge count to all allies by NV res, and also lets you give a random ally with charge count even more charge count based on the NV res, which if she's the only one, I believe it just gives to her, so you can just get your charge count up really fast. Furthermore, I've seen some strats where they try to give W Dawn an extra action. So how you do that is you bring 4 characters and then you hope that the last action goes to W Dawn. In that way, you can make her get, for example, 2 leaps in one turn, which will help her to get rip space on the next turn. It's a very cool strat, and I've even seen some people use W Dawn as a solo strat against, for example, the tour guide boss. Very, very cool. And very strong skill as well, because it also applies fragility. And like I said, fragility is super important in these dungeons, because the enemies are so thick, you really do need every source of extra damage to help you whittle down these enemies and cut down on turns. This leap skill, being a pierce, really helps in a lot of fights. For example, when you fight the frog, one of his eyes is weak to gloom and normal resistance to pierce, so you will do more damage. When you fight against the tour guide, he is weak to pierce, so you will do more damage. Rip space is of course a phenomenal skill, being slash. It will help you in the K-Corp stages. It will help you whenever you apply fragility with Rabbit Heathcliff into Dawn, for example, which will give you more fragility and even more damage from rip space. It's incredible, it's crazy, very strong unit. I totally underestimated her the first time. Next we got Kraust, yeah, the one who grips Faust. I don't know if I need to say much because I've already talked about her before. I called her really, really good when she was released, and she's just really, really good again. Especially since she gives pierce damage up and blunt damage up on kill, and applies gaze, which also affects pierce and blunt and increases damage taken by 20%, which is effectively 2 fragility. It's very, very good. Especially when you consider that Rabbit Heathcliff is also going to be run with her, so it increases the pierce damage from him. And this is a next turn application. So on turn 1, you apply gaze, and Rabbit Heathcliff does body sack to set up for a second turn quick suppression with gaze debuff on the enemy for huge amounts of damage. It's very, very strong. Furthermore, having pierce and lust on gripping is very significant because some enemies are weak to this and this, allowing her to do 3 times damage because you get times 2 due to the pierce, and then you get times 3 due to the lust element, doing a lot of damage. Phenomenal character. Nothing much else needs to be said really. She has the statuses you can actually ignore. The existence of gaze along with leap, shank, eviscerate, quick suppression is already enough to make her a top tier character because of gaze. Even if she's not just DPSing, she's supporting, and even if she's not supporting, she's DPSing. That's just how good she is. And now we look at Wakashu Ryoshu. In my opinion, I don't think she is the most important 3-star compared to the others, but I also think she is not weak enough to kick her out of the god tier. I think she is a very, very strong unit regardless because of having a piercing lust skill here, which is good typing for some bosses, and also having a pierce pride skill here, which is also not too bad for some bosses. You're able to, because a lot of enemies are weak to pride, some significant ones are weak to lust and pierce specifically. It would have been better if this one was a slash skill, but it's fine. Having pierce is great, especially since you can combo it with gaze, which will help you to deal even more piercing damage. So it's a good typing regardless. And actually, the bleed count is surprisingly not significant in the dungeon. I rarely see people use bleed teams for really fast speed runs. It's all about fragility, it's all about pumping out as much damage as possible. So the bleed part actually is not so interesting, but I think bleed is still a nice damage source. So having the extra bleed count also just adds up to her damage. Not bad at all. Reindeer Ishmael. I was actually very surprised when I saw Reindeer Ishmael because I thought Dawn was very strong at the start, near the start of Railway. But then after that I realized that Reindeer Ishmael has a lot of good perks about her as well, being able to help Dawn charge up her telepole with the element types, and Mind Whip being a very good skill for a few boss fights where the enemies are weak to blunt. Having all these blunts help you to build up energies for some of your egos. I believe she helps to build up body sack, telepole, and yeah, that's all I can think of right now. But yeah, very good energies, and also helps to speed up the first stage, which is the cockroaches, and then the N Corp gang stage, because they're all weak to blunt. So very strong characters still. As for her importance, I still think W, Dawn, and Rabbit are a little bit more important due to the fact that they have fragility and they pump out a lot of damage, but I can't sleep on her either. She has a lot of good stages that she's useful for. Very strong unit. Then here we have Wakashu Honglu, which was honestly not so unexpected. Because as we all know, Cloud Cutter is a bit of a crazy skill typing. So K-Corp, right? Let me go and find it. K-Corp has a very dumb final boss that is going to regenerate 25% of his life if his HP is not at full. Up to 3 times. When I first saw this, I was like, what the hell did I just witness? And yeah, this is a kind of a bullshit passive. Because the fact, right, if you get this guy to the stagger threshold of 40%, for example, he's going to heal 25% and he's now not staggered, which is absolutely stupid. I am so angry when I first saw that. And I think I have a short somewhere that showed what happened. I didn't kill him, so he just full healed and he was not staggered anymore. So I just wasted so much damage. It sucks. So Wakashu Honglu is very, very good in helping you DPS down these guys. Slash weakness plus pride weakness. And also quite a lot of egos as well that follow this typing, so they're also very good. I'll talk about those egos in another video. But Wakashu Honglu, just because he has Cloud Cutter and because his third skill also is slash, and I think his first skill is also slash. Yeah, he's all slash, so he really does help you a lot with this stage to cut down those turns. Very good unit. And there are some fights where slash is just normal resistant, but enemy is weak to pride and sloth, so you can still get a lot of extra damage from that guy. Pretty great damage dealer, so I still put him as a very, very strong character. Besides that, we also have Ting Tang. And Ting Tang, surprisingly, I put him here. It's because of his elements, and his envy and green is quite appreciated because there are quite a lot of strats that use body sack. So these 2 element typings are great. And then we also have some ebony stem and representation emitter strats. So gluttony is always nice. These skills, right, are actually not too good. So I always tend to discard them when it comes down to a boss fight. The real savior of Ting Tang Honglu is Shank being a ridiculous skill. It is Lust and Pierce is a very good typing for specific bosses. And it also benefits from gaze. So I really love Shank. I like, if I bring Ting Tang Honglu, it's because I want to Shank along with Faust applying gaze so that I can get even more damage out of Shank. So it's a very great combo as well. And even in places where the Pierce is resisted, at least this guy has good damage typings of slash on his first and third skill. Even though they are not particularly the best, they still do provide good elements for the rest of your team. So I still really like him as one of the IDs. I think it's a choice. You either choose between having more benefits with a synergy between Kraust and Honglu, or you bring Honglu here, or the Wakashu Honglu for more slash damage. Yeah, it's a choice. So it's up to you guys, depending on your strats. But both are very, very strong units. I would be happy to have any one of them, but I actually did not pull a single Honglu in my entire time playing this game, so it just feels bad that I can't bring any of these guys. I have to bring the base Honglu, which is not too weak either. It's just not as good as these guys.
Okay, actually when I think about it, between KK Honglu and TT Honglu, you would probably pick KK Honglu because KK Honglu does have a better skill 2 and skill 3 compared to TT Honglu. Mutilate and his first skill are pretty mediocre. because they are 1 coin skills and you really want to be pumping out as much damage as possible through multi-use coins. So I think KK Honglu generally outperforms TT Honglu, especially since TT Honglu's skill 2 Pierce can be compensated by picking anyone like Kraust or Gregor, for example. Yep. So I think if you have Pierce covered, then feel free to pick KK Honglu, and if you do not have Pierce covered, then you should probably bring TT Honglu to help you cover for that Pierce, because there's quite a few good slashes in the game at the base IDs even.
After that, we got G Manager Gregor. Is there really much that needs to be said here either? The man has Legerdemain, so that by itself already propels him like to the top, and he generates he generates the elements required just by using any of his moves, really. And Eviscerate is a phenomenal skill that does a shit ton of damage and self-heals. So yeah, this guy is just solid. Great typing here. And then if the typing is resistant, he can even use these skills, and these elements are really popular for a lot of strategies right now. Ebony Stem, Representation Emitter, sometimes I use Yisang Crow's Eye, so I use a lot of Sloth, so it's pretty good. Yeah, I really like G Gregor. I'll be happy to bring him on all of my teams. After that, we also have 7 Outis. 7 Outis is our latest addition. I still I'm still a bit questionable about her damage output. I don't think her damage output is phenomenal. I think it's alright. But the thing I want to mention is that she has some crazy good passives. Even if you don't use her, just bring her. You can even just use her to provide the right elements, right? Because it's Gluttony, Sloth, and Lust. So that gives you Legerdemain, helps you to fill up Ebony Stem, lots of good stuff. The passive, if you don't even use her, it gives one ally with the highest speed 10% more damage when attacking a target with weak or fatal. So that is just free damage to the highest speed character. All you need is to own 4, so it's a very amazing passive. And even then, she can still clash and do quite a bit of debuffing. So overall, a very solid unit. I really like her a lot. It's just, I don't think the damage output is enough to warrant always using her. Like, maybe, like, the thing about debuff and the thing about debuffs is that if they are not really increasing your damage by a huge amount, then it's really not going to help you reduce those turn counts. But at the same time, if your strategy relies on charging up a certain ego to compensate for the damage loss of bringing this character, I think it's still worth it. Yeah. But otherwise, it's really close in my opinion, because I really love base Outis, and then this character came out and she's also really good with elements and the typings. So it's a tricky one. This passive is so good also. Even if I don't bring her for like a team, I can still benefit from this additional 10% damage. So just an overall solid character. I really like her. I would still, I think I would probably take her over base Outis, but base Outis is also so solid for me. So it's a tricky one for me. I don't know, it's up to you guys. I would say this one's up to preference. I would even argue that Outis can belong here, but that might be a bit of a stretch, honestly. This could be just my personal bias, yeah. So I think just take the object. You should just take 7 section Outis if you don't know what you're doing, and you bring base Outis if you really want to just get some easy damages out, because her damage output is really very good. Okay, so I have a specific tier for good for K-Corps, and that is because I find these characters so good in helping me clear that stage that takes so many people's turns away. Those regenerating guys are really a huge barrier and take a lot of turns away from us. The other person that also takes a lot of turns from us is the Slithery Inquisitor, and that guy is a piece of work. So you really do want to bring characters that are maybe specialized for these stages. So I mentioned Pierce a lot, right? It's because the Slithering Hand guy is really weak to Pierce and Sloth. So it's very good to bring Piercers, and because all these characters have a lot of piercing, is very strong for that fight. It's really very strong and helps you to cut down 2-3 turns because of how tanky that guy is. He has 78 defense or something like that. It's ridiculous. Such a stupid boss, because the mechanic isn't very hard. It's just he's tick and he's there to waste our time. So I really appreciate the piercers here, who really help you to pierce through that boss, who is going to take a lot of your turns away. So yeah, so that's why I made another one for Corp, because Corp is another one like Slithering Inquisitor who takes a lot of your turns away. So for the Corpers, I actually really like Sinclair, Rodion, and Yisang. Because base Rodion has a blue slash and a red slash. Sinclair has a red slash and a 4 coin. No, not 4 coin. I think it's a 3 coin purple slash. And then BL Yisang also has a lot of good slashy moves to help you shred through that boss's health bar. In addition, Rodion also has a very good ego for that fight because it is slash and pride. So very, very strong character to bring for Corp. I just want to put a special mention just for the Corp because Corp really is a time waster and I hate Corp's design so much. Alright, rant over. Alright, back to passives. So these two get a special mention because their passives are really good. So let's look at Heath first. Is this the right one? No, that's sorry. They both have yellow hair, so it's a bit hard for me to tell. Okay, Heath. One ally with the highest SP. One ally with the highest SP deals 10% damage to enemies with lower SP. According to one of the data miners, this also works on abnormalities, and all you need is 4 gloom. So the hard part is getting this 4 gloom, but if you have someone like W Dawn, this shouldn't be too much of a problem because you'll be using leap quite a lot. And yeah, if you are able to get a permanent plus 10% damage on one character, as long as you hit something with low SP, I think you're good to go. Yeah, this is just free damage. So I think it's a very good because all you need is to own the gloom resources. If you cannot accumulate gloom, then of course don't consider this. But if you can, because you have like W Dawn for example, or you're using any of the W Corp who can generate a lot of gloom, or maybe like N Heath who can generate quite a bit of gloom as well, I think you can consider the Hefe as one of your passives. Very, very strong, increase a lot of your damage. And then after that, we also have Dawn, Base Dawn. Base Dawn, I would recommend if you bring her, never to use her. Even though she is technically a Pierce character, she only has 1 coin, and a 3 coin here. When I was trying the base ID runs, I just can't get her to do enough damage. I even tried popping her ego to try to do a bunch of damage and it just wasn't enough. The base IDs with Pierce are really bad. So I don't recommend using her for her kit. I do recommend using her for the passive. You will accumulate a lot of these lust energy because of all those characters I talked about. They have lust and they have pierce. And then you can get the benefits of that by giving one ally with the highest SP 10% more pierce damage. So that's just free. So these two characters have very strong passives because they need to own the element only. And then they give one ally free damage. So I really like these passives for a lot of these runs. Like normally, Dawn's pierce damage bonus will go on to Rabbit Heathcliff, which is very significant. It will improve his damage by quite a bit. And then Hefe is, well, it's RNG, but it's still a nice free damage boost for anyone in your party. Alright, now we talked about the gods, let's go to the strong. Okay, so we got Corp Faust. I don't think I need to mention her much. I think a lot of people already recognize that she has very strong stuff in her kit. Corp Faust has things like Deep Cuts, which is piercing and gloom, great typing for some bosses, and also opportunistic slash, which is envy and gives you slash. So helps you to charge up teleport, helps you to charge up body sack a little bit, gives you some lust energy as well to activate maybe passive for the dawn or to give yourself other ego activations. So I think it's still pretty solid, and yeah, I really like her a lot. Nothing much to say about her, she's just solid. If you don't have Kraus, you would definitely bring her. Then after that, you have 7 Section 6 Ryoshu. This one came to a surprise because I didn't really look at 7 Section 6 Ryoshu too much. But she's actually kind of nuts. So having Pride and Slash here is already quite decent for Corp. Because I think the only bad part here is that you only have 1 coin, so it won't do that much damage, but you'll still do quite a lot. It's times 2 and then times 2 again. I think you become somewhere like times 3 damage. You do 3 times damage to the Corp guys. The real big one that I want to mention here is Swash. So I really like Swash because it applies 5 slash fragility as long as you win a clash. So if you make a clash and she wins, which is pretty likely due to how high her growth is. You will apply 5 slash fragility, and then your follow-up slashers can one-shot that K-Corp bastard who's going to heal 25% HP before he could even heal that 25% HP. Such an amazing follow-up, yeah. 5 slash fragility is 50% more damage, so that is very, very big, which is why I really like her for K-Corp specifically. Of course, if you have Ryoshu, I would still argue for Ryoshu, just because I think Ryoshu still has quite a bit going for her. If you want to use this character though to just speed up your K-Corp runs, I think she does have potential, and I think she will help you cut down 1 to 2 turns, so it's quite significant as well. Alright, and then after that we got Base Outis. Nothing much to say really. I don't think I even need to go to her page. She has Sloth Pierce on her first skill, she has Slash Pride on her second skill, she has Gloom Pierce on her third skill, and she has 2 Pathos Mathos, which is her base ego, and it's the Odyssey has a purpose. It gives her a damage % up if she does not get hit the last turn. So extremely good damage dealer. Great typings, gives you a lot of decent energies that you will need for the entire run, and just overall a very strong character. And then after that we got a Section 5 Honglu. I'm not sold on the burn teams in this railway yet, because the burn support is just not there yet. I'm hoping Hell's Kitchen gives us some burn support so that we can start seeing some resemblance of a team. But I think the Honglu, the Liu gang in general, like Gregor, meursault, are not there yet. They're not worth picking over the others if you have them, but they are worth picking if you don't have these guys. So what does Honglu have over base Honglu? Let's see. That should be the real question, right? What does Honglu have over base Honglu? Liu section Honglu is all blunt, provides Lust, Gloom as a skill 1, which is quite significant, and Wrath on the third skill, as well as doing quite a decent amount of damage with 6 to 10, and as well as 5 plus 6 plus 6. Mental math hurts right now because I've been looking at numbers the whole day, so I don't remember. I can't do the math, but yeah, it's a bunch of damage. You can basically ignore the burn count because there's currently no burn synergy. I've had a few testers of friends of mine who tried using a burn team to clear, and it just isn't worth it. So you can take their word for it that burn is currently not very significant in reducing your turns. So I think, yeah, overall his typings are very good. He does have blunt, so he can help you with a few stages as well. Namely the sacristy stage, where the guys with sword hands who are normal resistant to blunt, so he can do full damage to them, as well as the N-Corp gang and the cockroaches, because he can do all this blunt damage. So what does base Honglu have is that base Honglu has cleave. Has coin power +1. Base Honglu has coin power +1 and coin power +2, which gives you a lot of clashing power compared to the other Honglu. This base Honglu has 0.72 growth, while the other Honglu has 0.65 growth. So as you can imagine, this guy is not a very strong clasher. He's a little bit like Liu and Meursault, who also has a pretty bad growth. He's more for damaging if possible. As for the base Honglu, he is more for clashing if possible. And honestly, I would say that this is just preference depending on which Honglu you want. Unless you have one of these guys, then it's not even a question, you just take those two guys at the top. Yeah, so these guys are pretty evenish. I use the base Honglu for my runs and I find him adequate. My friend used this Honglu for the run and he found that the burn synergy just wasn't there. And I mean, he did have some good moments, but it wasn't very significant compared to bringing someone like KK Honglu or TT Honglu. Alright, and then we got Shidon, who once again is currently, since the patch hasn't hit yet, she currently has trouble getting that skill power on the Overbreathe. And if you had W Dawn, then she wouldn't even be a consideration, right? She is still pretty solid, I will admit. She does have some good typings to help you get body sack, as well as some breath sources. I would say that if you don't have W Dawn, and if you don't want to use base Dawn passive to buff your piercers, like Rabbit Heathcliff, then you should take this Dawn. Otherwise, you should not take this Dawn over the other two. Yep, that is my opinion. I mean, even then, like if you want to bring her, you can also do some sort of slash strat, but unfortunately because gaze only helps blunt and pierce, I think the slash strats are a bit weaker compared to the pierce strats. So I really don't like this being a slash, but in the future when slash vulnerability maybe is added, hell, this could even combo well with 7 section Ryoshu, right? Because apply 5 slash fragility and then you give someone with 10% slash damage and then you just slash. So could be a strat where you use her to just speed up the K-Corp stage, but I think the piercing strat is a bit more consistent over the entire run because you'll be using pierce quite a bit. Okay, then after that we have Rodion, Mittelhammer. I think that... Okay, so this is the only exception here where I think that Base Rodion and N Rodion, it's better to take N Rodion if you do have her, and you don't take LCB Rodion if you have N Corp Rodion. The reason for that is because of her base ego. So the reason I bring Base Rodion is because she has these two very good skill types for K-Corp. Red slash and blue slash. But this all actually doesn't matter because if you look at Rodion's ego, what is cast, it is pride and slash. And those enemies usually have 2 vulnerability on themselves, 2 fragility. So you will do a butt ton of damage. I think on average this would do 117 damage every time you pop this skill. And N Corp Rodion, right? Pride and Gloom right here. So N Corp Mittelhammer has Pride here, and then you just need 1 Gloom from somewhere else, which is not too hard to get. 1 Gloom is pretty decent. So I think that is pretty good to bring this character so that she can just spam ego for when she's doing the K-Corp stage on those slash pride weak enemies, and then blunt down the rest of the K-Corp gang who are weak to blunt. Yeah, so I think overall this character is just significantly better. I mean, having Wrath and Blunt, wow, that's one of those blunt weak enemies is just going to explode because of this. I think it's a very, very strong option. Yeah, so if you want to just overall have a good time, I would say bring her, and then don't bring the base Rodion. Yeah, because even without the slashing of base Rodion, this Mittelhammer Rodion can just what is cast every single turn as long as you had like 1 Gloom Source and have been generating Pride for a while. Yeah, I think it's very solid, especially if you bring KK honglu, because you'll be using Cloud Cutter so much that you have so much Pride. So yeah, just definitely bring her in that case. Yeah. Yep. I really love Mittelhammer Rodion. And I especially love what is cast as a base ego. Very, very strong. Alright, now we have to compare these two. So I've talked to some people who have done some runs with her. So the reason why you would want to run with her, right? The theory here is that if LCCB Ishmael goes first, she can activate her gun skill. It's called Suppress, and it inflicts 5 fragility. That's a lot of fragility. The problem is that it is extremely RNG. She has 2 to 6 speed, which is on the lower end but not super low, so you would have to pray. Especially since the patch isn't here yet, so it's 2 to 5 speed, because you have a very, very, very low chance of rolling 6 speed. So yeah, he was trying to reroll for these guys, for Ishmael to go first, and on average, most of the characters would just go at the same speed as her or go faster than her, so you would never get the benefit of the fragility out. So it was very inconsistent, and if you really want to try this strat, you have to reroll a lot of times, making it so that I think it might not even be worth it to try. But I will admit that if you want to destroy blunt enemies, definitely bring her, because they really won't stand a chance, especially with this Pride and Blunt. The K-Corp guys are weak to Pride as well, so you will do quite a bunch of damage with this. She section, on the other hand, I have seen someone try to use She section at 50% HP to try and clear the entire dungeon, and they just gave up. The reason being, right, is that if you use She Ishmael, you are locking your team. What happens is that She Ishmael now becomes a must keep into your party, otherwise you have to spend one fight making her go back down to 50% HP. And that is quite a waste of time, in my opinion. And to the person that was testing this, it was also quite a waste of time, so he gave up. Yeah, so as you can see here, as some people might know and some people might not know, is that Flashing Strike is actually superior to Cloud Cutter if you can get to 50% HP, because this does a butt ton of damage, just a humongous amount. The problem is that it needs to be 50% HP, and if you let her rest once, she fully heals in the dungeon. So it's really, really rough. Because if some enemies are resistant to slash, you might even have to bring her because you cannot let her heal, which is a problem. Yeah, so the She Ishmael strat was very smart at the start, and then after testing, it just didn't have enough payoff to warrant bring her for every single fight to be less than 50% HP. I mean, maybe someone could test and find a spot where she could go back down to 50%, and then you can sacrifice some turns there to gain back some turns later, but it's very tricky in my opinion. I think it's too much effort. I think if you don't have to do this. Yeah, I will admit that she at base is still a pretty decent unit, so it's just between her and LCCB here. Their passives are not particularly amazing either. One gives you guard skill final power, the other gives you counter skill final power, so it's really whatever for the Ishmaels, really. If you have the Reindeer, I believe it's just clearly the better option. Yeah. Even if you don't bring her, look, she even gives plus 10% blunt damage for certain characters, which is still fine. Yeah. Reindeer Ishmael is unfortunately the best of all these guys, all these girls. The base Ishmael, I tried to use her in the dungeon run, but having only one coin really limits your damage output, so I don't think it was worth it at all, unfortunately. Yeah. So between these two Ishmaels, it's your choice. If you have Reindeer, definitely pick Reindeer. Otherwise, you just choose whatever flavor of Ishmael you want. Most likely, you will not use them for the rest of the run. If you want, I still recommend the gun Ishmael, because at least she does a bunch of blunt damage.
Okay, so as a little bit of an add-on, I actually asked around for the She Ishmael strat, and actually some people come up with some pretty creative ideas on how to make her work. So actually, this guy made his She Ishmael work by intercepting all the piercing attacks at the start of the stage, and then afterwards, he just kept bringing She Ishmael for every single stage, and she would always perform because that skill 2 is pretty disgusting at 50% HP. And then in order to maintain that HP, all she would need to have is a Gregor passive. Yep, pretty impressive actually. Pretty smart, I didn't think about that. Yeah, so with Gregor's passive, the G Gregor manager, you can clash and you regain your HP. So with that, you could maintain She Ishmael's HP at a specific level that you want. And if you didn't want the passive to be active, you just bring G Gregor, and he's not a bad unit after all. So it's actually pretty ingenious how you can use the passive to just heal up She Ishmael, and then just bring G Gregor if you don't need to heal Ishmael. Yeah, so it was quite a cool strategy, and my opinion of She Ishmael has definitely raised up a little bit. So I would actually prioritize her rather than fish for RNG with R Ishmael if you are trying to go for the She Ishmael strat. But if you still want to fish for the R Ishmael RNG, then please feel free to. There's so many ways to get your sub 120 that I think at this point it's just personal preference. You can use She Ishmael for the entire run with G Gregor as a support, or you can just use R Ishmael and try to fish for more fragility. I think both are pretty viable strategies.
Yeah, okay, I think that's it for the Ishmaels. And after that, we got Heathcliff, the N Corp version. N Corp Heathcliff is solid. But with Rabbit's existence, unfortunately, I don't think he can exist, because Rabbit is just so busted right now. Yeah, I mean, looking at his kit, it's just good. He has Sloth, Envy, Lust. He can give you a lot of Envy for your body sacks, can give you the Lust for your body sacks, can give you Gloom for your other things that you need. Yeah, so overall great typings, and then plus coin drop is really significant for a lot of the clashes, because plus coin drop, I have explained before, affects every single coin that the enemy rolls. So on bosses, this is disgusting. Yeah, it's a pretty solid character. But unfortunately, Rabbit Heathcliff exists, and unfortunately, I can't justify bringing him as long as Rabbit Heathcliff is available as a unit. Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. This is just my opinion. Once again, if you want to bring, just bring. But I really, yeah, unfortunate. Okay, then Liu Gregor. Liu Gregor is actually not bad as a clasher. He has one of the highest clashing growths in the game, 0.82. That's about Kraus, N Corp Faust growth, 0.82 as well. So he will have pretty good base power clashing. He does a lot of blunt, so great for those blunt stages. Gives a decent spread of elements that you may want. But unfortunately, once again, burn is not significant enough. So that's another problem. Yeah. He will do quite a bit of damage though because of the sprinkling of burn every now and then. So it's a decent clashing power, quite a bit of hits, and then applies quite a bit of burn. So you can still get a lot of benefit from that. Liu Meursault is in the same boat. He's actually one of the better meursaults in my opinion, just because he has more damage output than the rest. Yeah, his damage output is actually pretty damn solid. Perfected Death Fist exists and does piercing as well, so you can benefit from gaze. So it's actually pretty damn awesome to bring this guy along. I think he is actually one of the better meursaults. If you want to bring other meursaults, it's because you want the elements and not because you want the damage output. N meursault, some people might argue, is about even as well. N meursault is also... It's unfortunately not as offense oriented as Liu meursault, but still has some pretty decent elements for the egos, and also has additional damage sources in the form of nails. Unfortunately, his skill 1 is pretty bad, and with the removal of discard, it might not be very good in the future as well. Taking 3 bind is quite significant though, so it will help you with the boss control. So it's up to you what flavor of meursault you want. Most of the times I actually don't even bring my meursault because I'd rather bring another DPS instead, someone who can output even more damage than my meursault. But yeah, that's my opinion for the meursaults. I think they suffer from the fact that they are not as damagey as the rest. The most damagey one is Liu meursault, and even then you would probably pick one of the 3 stars instead, which is very unfortunate. And then lastly, we have 7th section Yisang, which is arguably the best of the Yisangs. And that is because of his passive. If you do not want to bring BL Yisang to help you clear K-Corp stage, then you should bring this one, because he just straight up gives you +1 clash power, and gluttony isn't a really hard one to get with a lot of the units in the game. Gregor, 7 Outis, quite a few units have a gluttony as a skill, so it's actually not too hard to get this resonance, and it gives you +1 clash power, so it's not too bad. He's actually one of the better ones as well because he has quite a lot of speed, and he provides quite a variety of elements, and is a very rare gloom source in my opinion. Gloom is quite rare as long as you don't have W Dawn, so I find that gloom sources are generally more popular for me. But yeah, he does feed into Ebony Stem and Legend Domain also, so it's still pretty solid. Wait, Legend Domain... Yeah, it's Sloth also, yeah, okay. So yeah, that's my opinion of these guys. And for these guys, the base IDs, you would use them if you had none of the units above. That's it. I managed to use them to clear still, so please don't say that they are absolute garbage, because these are my most used units in the clear run. Yep, they are all very solid units. Heath, unfortunately, because I borrowed Rabbit, Heathcliff could not be used, but if I could, I would actually bring Rabbit, Heathcliff, and base Heathcliff. Because one can do a lot of blunt, one can do a lot of pierce. Just phenomenal 2 units. So yeah, very, very strong. Yeah. Yisang actually is not a great unit, but I brought him because his Crow's Eye Nest really helped me a lot in many situations. And then for this last row here, I think for this last row, the main reasoning for putting them here is that there are just so much better other options that I just slapped them down here. These guys all suffer from low damage, for example single coins, and wrong typings sometimes. For example, for BL Sinclair, I know he has a very good red slash skill on his skill 2, which is very good for K-Corp for example, but he also has some abysmal clashing power, so I really don't like using him, because I rather win the clash and do the damage rather than lose the clash and gain attack power next turn. That's just my opinion. I don't know about what you guys think, but yeah, I really don't like this guy over Base Sinclair. Yeah, I'd rather bring Base Sinclair, who has some pretty decent clashing power and has lots of coins on 2 of his skills, which is quite significant for me. As for the others, yeah, they are just unfortunately tanky or just don't do enough damage output. Shoutis, I tried to make Shoutis work. She does give damage up, she does give attack power up, but it's not significant enough. Let me go and look at her, just to clarify this. So if you look at Shoutis, right? Corp head manager, Outis. If you have this passive, right, it gives you +1 attack power, 1 defense power, 1 protection. 1 attack power is nice, but it doesn't actually add too much to your damage, in my opinion. So theoretically, you could put on the bench and you get 1 free attack power as long as you own this, which is very solid, but it's just not significant enough to do enough damage. You know, I'd rather bring 7 section Outis, I'd rather bring base Outis. Supports are not great because when you apply fragility, you want to be outputting as much damage as you can. So I really don't like that she gives attack up. If this was damage up, then I would consider it. I know that she has this as well. Unfortunately, the thing is you're consuming a turn of attack. So if, for example, I traded her for 7 Outis or base Outis who had 3 coins of attack, they could benefit way more from the fragility than someone like Shoutis can, because she only has 1 coin here, so it's just not good enough. Yeah. I don't know. I can't see an argument, or I guess I haven't been told like whether Shoutis is very good, but I just don't think you can make. I just don't think it's worth bringing Shoutis instead of the rest. Yeah, unfortunately, supports and tanks just suffer because we are trying to lower our turns as much as possible to get the banner. Yeah, so that's why I put these guys down here, and Heathcliff is here because I just don't like him. I think his kit is bad, and I think he has no synergy, and I think he just he needs an ID or an ego to fucking make him work again. Heath, why man? He has a good skill tree, that's all I can say. His skill 1 and skill 2 is pretty bad, and his skill 3 kills him sometimes. And he only activates at 25% HP. Why can't you be 50%? Why can't you be like the rest? Yeah. Okay, so that's all for the bottom, guys. I won't go too much into detail. If you have any argument for anyone here, please let me know. I want to know. I want to know all the strategies. I want to know what you guys think about all these characters. I want to think about your opinions as well. I really want to know all the different stuff that you can do in this game, because I think this game is so fun to just team build and try different strats to get even lower turns. And yeah, okay, that's it for this video. Once again, just to clarify, the power levels are not like Reindeer is stronger than Honglu. It's they all belong in the same tier, and they are structured such that if you don't have this, you scroll down until you find the next best Heathcliff, and then you keep going down until you run out of Heathcliffs, and that's the priority order you should pick your characters in my opinion. Yeah. Alright, and that's the end of this video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see all your discussions in the comments. Yep, thanks.